Becca currently serves as the Executive Director for the Oklahoma Alliance for Geographic Education. OKAGE is a professional organization for all educators in Oklahoma, providing a year-round schedule of professional development events and academics for in-service and pre-service teachers, curriculum coordinators, and informal educators of all grade levels and backgrounds. These include workshops, summer institutes, and field studies that provide curriculum, material, and experiential learning opportunities. Dr. Scott Green is a geography professor and research scientist at the University of Oklahoma and is the coordinator of OKAGE.
All right, thank you. My name is Becca Castleberry, and I'm the Executive Director of OKAGE. And I know a few of you are familiar with OKAGE and have worked with us in the past, but who has not worked with OKAGE or does not know anything about OKAGE? Okay, all right. So I am going to go over just some general information about us, and then I'm going to get in more to our presentation topic. So OKAGE started out as part of the National Geographic Network of Alliances for Geographic Education, but we are now in the National Council for Geographic Education Alliance. So we serve the state of Oklahoma, but there are several other alliances that serve other states. Some states do not have an alliance anymore just because of the National Geographic change, but we are still fortunate enough to have an alliance that is still funded and still working on outreach activities and participating in professional development across the state. We are headquartered here in this building in Norman, so that's been really nice for this conference. And we just generally focus on professional development and outreach opportunities for any educator in Oklahoma. So these are some of the resources that we provide. And like I said, all of these are for any educator in Oklahoma. Like, we do heavily emphasize a lot of social studies content, but the geography lessons can be used for science, mathematics, or English language arts, depending on what you want to focus on. These are a few examples of our outreach activities. Like, typically we do Geography Day in November, which is in accordance with the Geography Awareness Week. So we'll get students together. This picture right here at the History Center, like, we got a whole bunch of students together and they got to learn from exhibitors from programs of geography and environmental science around the state. So different universities came to talk to them. And then they also got to learn about different job opportunities in geography. So we had representatives from like the public and private sector talking about different career opportunities as well. And then we also like to do an art contest. So these are some examples of the winners from our Geography Day at the History Center. And we did that contest on site, but we have done a remote art contest before where they will submit artwork to us just by mailing it in. And we've done a postcard contest in accordance with Geography Awareness Week. And then this is us presenting the award to one of the postcard winners. So we just try to do little things like that to keep people engaged and involved in geography. So we also do professional development events. This picture right here is from our Geography as Elementary workshop, where we were specifically highlighting how you can use geography in the elementary levels, but also how geography can be used to teach all subjects. So not just social studies, but it can be used in science, math, and English language arts, which elementary teachers are, of course, teaching everything. So we think geography is a really good tool for that. And just like gives people some different ideas about different ways you might be able to teach some of the content in other subjects. So one of the main things we're focusing on now is our Geo Inquiry Projects. We just heard from Leanne Wyrick, who talked all about her Wildland Urban Interface project. This is another photo from that particular field trip. We also did other projects in other regions of the state. In the Southwest, we did the Wichita Mountains. So we looked at conservation and preservation. with Cache High School. And in the Northwest, we worked with the Black Mesa State Park on looking at their pre and post COVID visitation numbers and looking at how the pandemic has impacted that park in terms of wildlife, visitation, economic factors, and stuff like that. So we took students on a field trip to that state park, and they got to visit with the park manager about all of the issues they had been experiencing. And then in the Northeast, we worked with Owasso 7th grade center, and they did a project centered around the Tulsa Race Massacre, and they were looking at pre and post demographic data as like before the Tulsa Race Massacre and then after the Tulsa Race Massacre. So they were looking at how that event shifted the demographics within their particular community and in surrounding communities. And then they used that data to then develop an inclusivity plan for their school. And then they also developed a survey to identify different things that they could potentially do in their school to make it more inclusive to new students and different types of students as well. And then in the Southeast, of course, we did the Broken Bow Project, which was looking at the wildland-urban interface and tourist safety, wildfire risk, everything that Leanne talked about today. So we are still emphasizing Geo Inquiry Projects, and these are the focus areas that we currently have materials developed for. The projects that you would potentially be doing if, for whatever reason, you were interested in working with us, you wouldn't be limited to these topic areas, but it's just what we already have developed, and we would be able to get that ready for you faster. But we would certainly work with you if you had a specific local issue that you really wanted to focus on. We would certainly be able to do that. And then finally, the other main thing we have going on is our giant map program. OKAGE used to just have 2 Oklahoma maps, but now we have all of the giant maps except for they had a new solar system one that they released right before they stopped making the maps. So we didn't get that one, but we do have the old solar system one. So we do have all of those available for checkout at no cost. And we also cover shipping expenses as well. So there really is no cost to you or your district. But yeah, that's a resource we highly encourage everyone to use and take advantage
I
of.
just want to quickly add that they come, and you'll see this, Rebecca was talking about this yesterday, and you'll see this in they come with all kinds of additional materials, cones, dice,
Yeah.
ropes, and binders with all lesson plans in them as well. So you don't, it's not just here's the map, it's here's the map with all the necessary resources.
Right, yeah.
How long do you check them out?
So we usually reserve them for about a 2-week period. Some people just want it for 1 week, or every once in a while they'll just want it for a few days. But generally we do 2 weeks just to kind of give us some time to work on the shipping and everything. We try to build in some flexibility with the schedule. But yeah, it's a good question. So after talking about the giant map, I'm now going to start the actual lesson that we'll be working on the giant map with, and this is having to do with light pollution. So does anyone already know what light pollution is? Like, can anyone tell me what they think it is? Yeah.
It is, well, like if you live in a city, you don't see the stars because of light, you know.
Right.
And, that's, you don't see everything in the night sky.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Anyone else?
Strongly recommend you go out to the Panhandle.
Yeah.
Black Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it out in the middle of the ocean?
Yes.
Ship.
Yes.
You'll see a totally different sky.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So after this lesson, students should understand what light pollution is and why it exists, how it impacts communities and ecosystems, and the challenges associated with reducing levels of light pollution. So Scott, could you pass out the standard handout since I'm getting ready to go over that? Thank you. So like I said, we generally try to focus on how we can use geography to teach different subjects because we do want to be sure we're reaching all educators in the state. And so this lesson is a template for how you could use geography, like one specific geographic topic or subject, and use it to teach content in English, math, science, and social studies. So I just wanted to pass out the handout because this is maybe a little bit too hard to read. It's a little bit small, but it's just an example of the different subject areas and also the different grade levels that you could use this subject to teach. Does anyone have any questions about the standards? Like, does anyone, maybe is anyone wondering why I included any? Yeah.
This isn't about the standards.
Okay.
So I've tried a couple of times to get the South America app, and I think it was on there both times, and it's just not available. Do you guys have one for South America?
Yeah, we do have South America. Yeah.
My
Absolutely.
suggestion would be go on the website, sign up now.
Mhm.
It may be that it was just blocked out or somebody had signed up for it before you got it.
Literally, you said it didn't have it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
For a couple of years.
Yeah, we do have it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we definitely have South America now. So, but yeah, good question. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about maybe why I included these standards, or is anything unclear about that? Because I can go over that if I need to, but if not,
I
then.
think I can remember if it was English that just changed theirs.
Mhm.
Or, no, it's some big signs. Are these like the current?
Yeah, I used the newest. Yeah, the newest ones. Yeah, right. Good question. Yeah. All right. So speaking of the English language arts connection, here is a book that can introduce the topic of light pollution with your students, and they have a little video previewing the book that I will pass around while the video is going. Yes.
Can't see? Afraid of the dark? Worried about burglars? Is all that light
too loud.
really necessary? It seems harmless, but lights from cars, streetlights,
too loud.
houses, and
Sorry.
other buildings affect animals, plants, and even humans. Lights can cause birds to strike windows or circle towers until they become so tired they fall. Lights can stop sea turtles from laying eggs and make it hard for bats to reach feeding areas. 13-year-old Joan loves the outdoors, day and night. She encounters the fragile animals impacted by light and shares her journey in Dark Matters, Nature's Reaction to Light Pollution. Along with stories from finding an injured bird to spending the night with a moose, you'll discover unexpected facts on the amazing nightlife of birds, mammals, amphibians, fish, and other animals. See how light contributes to smog and global warming, and how ecosystems and biodiversity are impacted by light, which often is unnecessary. Find out why scientists must be able to observe the night sky, and how you can help reduce light pollution for animals, plants, people, and the planet. Because dark matters. A children's nonfiction and literature title by award-winning author Joan Marie Goulart, published by Red Deer Press.
So that was also an introduction to noise pollution because it was too loud. So yeah, I am passing around that book. So if you do want to look at it, feel free. But this is just sort of an accessible way to introduce the topic with your students. And then you could also have it be an exercise to lead the next day of the unit if you were doing a multi-day unit. So some of the questions that I prepared in relation to the book that you could ask the students afterwards were, did you already know about light pollution? Do you think adults in your community are aware of or concerned about light pollution? What do you think was the author's purpose for writing this book? And was there anything surprising in this book? Or how would you share what you've learned in this book with peers or an adult in your community? So that's just sort of a way to introduce it and get them thinking about it and discussing with their class. But did... yeah, I ordered it from Barnes & Noble, but we have some extra copies. So if you do want a copy, you can request one and we can get it. It's not a problem. And then I'm probably going to order a few copies anyway and just put them in the giant map kits. So then anyone that wanted to use the giant map and do this lesson would just have that book in the kit. But yeah, we can certainly get the book for you if you would like a copy. All right, so these two pictures show the difference in like what the night sky can look like. So obviously this is an unpolluted night sky, and then this is like what we would typically see in an urban nightscape. We don't live in Hong Kong, but you would think we do by looking at the sky because you can barely see any stars anyway. So it's just kind of an illustration of what we're working with. So a little history of light pollution. We started out with street lighting about 300 years ago, and it was predominantly gas lamps. But since then, we've transitioned to electric lamps, and simply put, we just have so much more lighting, and the lights that we have now are brighter than the ones in the past. So So can anyone think of why we have outdoor lighting in the first place? Like what would be some of the benefits to having lighting? Yeah.
Safety.
Safety?
Make my travel possible.
Yeah, travel.
Decoration.
Yeah, decoration. Yeah. So yeah, those are all ways that we use light in a positive way, or that in a way that people enjoy and appreciate. But yeah, so the purpose is to provide a safe and secure environment. It's to extend the use of parks and walkways into the night hours. It enhances historic or notable features and landmarks, and it facilitates travel on roads and intersections. In a perfect world, our outdoor lighting would enhance visibility, not produce glare, be a part of the nightscape rather than the entirety, and facilitate extended use of outdoor spaces while following a master plan. Here's an example of some different types of lighting that you might have seen. So this one on the end is totally unshielded, and light is going up and out and down. Then this one, it's going up mostly, out mostly, down a little bit. This one is cut off at the very top. So it's going out, but not up, which is better. And this one is like fully shielded, and the light is only pointing down. They missed one though, right here. They should just have the light turned off. Though. That would be, that's what I would like. But yeah. So basically you just want to use the amount of light you need. You don't want to use more, and you generally want to try to have the light more on the warmer spectrum rather than the cool blue tone spectrum. Does anyone know why we don't want light to spread up and out?
It's a big heater. Maybe with your lights for so long.
Maybe. Could be. Yeah. Anyone else? So the way I think about it whenever I'm thinking about the lighting is whenever you look at the earth and you see how thin the atmosphere is, it's such a thin layer going from like the surface of the earth up to space. It's just really super thin, but the atmosphere is wide. It reaches far and wide. So whenever you have that light going out like that, it's propagating through the whole atmosphere. Whereas going up is also bad, but it doesn't have as much to travel through going just up as it does outwards. So you will still get a lot of pollution, and it's still obviously going to block your way, like your field of vision. But spreading out is also really bad because of how the atmosphere is and how light is propagating through it with pollution, moisture, and other factors as well that are contributing to the light pollution. So here an example, here are examples of like before and after. So these are the untreated, and then these are like treated, like after they've gone through and assessed their lighting and made some changes. So can anyone identify what specifically might have changed in these pictures?
It's going down.
Yeah, right. Especially here, like you're looking at those and like it's like right in your eye, but then like this is like going just straight down and it's right on the ground where it's needed. And then up here, it looks like they just took out these top ones. The lights on the bottom look the same to me, but I think they just decreased the amount of light that they were using. So that's an option too. Here's another example of shielded versus unshielded lighting. These are two fields. Here's someone using the shielded and here's the unshielded. And I always ask people which field they would rather have their house and try to sleep next to at night. So,
There's also the cost.
yeah, right, yeah. So probably not this one, but that one might not be too bad.
Do you know what the stadium here uses?
Oh, unshielded. Like, yeah, unshielded. Yeah, it's like it shines like directly into my office a lot of the time. So that's definitely not what's needed or wanted. So that is.
I guess we don't have any ordinances in Norman.
No, not that I am aware of or that I've seen, but that's why I went to work on Geo Inquiry Projects with teachers and students in Norman, so we can work on that and figure it out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
I personally have a real problem with blue light, but I noticed in your presentation that you said warmer light would be better.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the scientific reason for warmer light being better?
Right. So as humans and animals, like we've evolved with warm light sources. So like if you look at the sun or like fires, like that is orange, yellow light. So it's like we evolutionarily respond better to it. And the blue light is just more of like that unnatural, artificial feeling that you just don't, your body is just not responding to it as well as it otherwise would. I mean, we probably don't notice it on a conscious level, but our bodies are affected by it differently for sure. And especially those of animals as well. But yeah, that's a great question. Did that answer your question or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anyone else have any other questions before I go on? All right. So these are just some of the things to consider with light pollution. There's the cost of unnecessary, unwanted, or unneeded lighting. The estimated cost of light pollution is about $3 billion every year. So, and I've got that from the International Dark Sky Association. There also are public health impacts. Can anyone think of what a public health impact might be?
Poor quality sleep,
Right, yeah,
and then you're tired, and then you're not as productive.
right.
You're more likely to get cancer if your circadian rhythm is
Yeah,
messed
more
up.
Yep.
disease.
Gain weight, there's all kinds
Yeah,
of things. But
right.
It starts from there.
Right, yeah. So yeah, artificial light at night interferes with our ability and other species' abilities to produce melatonin, which is in charge of regulating our circadian rhythms, which are 24-hour sleep and waking cycles. This one I put because this girl looks depressed. I think she's just depressed about how much light is in her city. She's like really she's really thinking about it and she's just sad. So depression, I think that would be me. And then, so what about on wildlife? Can anyone think of an example on wildlife? Yeah, migration, yeah.
Is it disorienting?
Yes, disorienting. Anyone else?
Does it have to do with visibility and how other creatures perceive light?
Yeah. Well, and also it kind of gets back to the circadian rhythm. Like they're being exposed to that light, and it's affecting their cycles. And there's like, oh, I think it's daylight. I'm looking at this light. I'm supposed to be awake and doing things right now, and then that's just not the case. So, yeah.
It makes it much harder for nocturnal animals, or nocturnal
Right.
hunters to be successful.
Right. Yeah.
They use the moon a lot.
Yes.
Tracked it.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big part of it too. Like they've evolved to use the night sky, the natural light, but we've just completely obliterated their habitats with the light pollution. So habitat fragmentation is also a big issue for nocturnal species. And then what about astronomy or observation? Can anyone think of why we should care about why astronomy, if astronomers can see the sky?
My husband always tells me about his astronomy class at OCCC, how they went outside to try to look at something and he was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like there's nothing there.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, other than them just not being able to see as well, astronomy has contributed to a lot of our advances in medical technology, cell phone and communication technology, defense technology. So it is important and in our best interest to be sure that they can still do their work and do that successfully and accurately, so we can get more cool stuff from astronomers at some point. And then Dalton mentioned the safety issue. And can anyone think of any examples of maybe like why some lighting might be better for safety than others? Like, so do we want brighter lighting for safety? Like, what would be ideal?
I've actually heard of studies where well-lit areas, there's higher robberies because they can see better at night.
Right. Yep. That's absolutely the case. Yeah, there are some instances where too much light can actually help crime happen because it's easier to get everything done when you can see. And then also, there have been studies done that show people tend to feel a big difference in safety from going from no light to a little bit of light, but not much difference in safety from a dimly lit area to a brightly lit area at night. So it really just kind of gets back to the main point of using the light that you need and not using more than that. So just speaking from experience, I personally love the night sky. So I took this in the Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. And then this one was at Starry Nights Ranch Bed and Breakfast in Mancos, Colorado. So just speaking from experience, it's depressing when you can't see the night sky. And especially when you know what you're missing out on, which I didn't ever go to the sand dunes until maybe a year or two ago. So that was my first experience really seeing the Milky Way. Like I'd seen it a little bit, but you can really, really see it there. So that's just me personally. So another thing about light pollution is it's generally going to be correlated with population. So this map is showing the population of the United States, and then the next map is showing the light pollution in the United States. So I'll kind of go back so you can see that's our population and that's our light pollution. Has anyone noticed any examples of where there's maybe a lot of light pollution but not a lot of people? Does anyone know?
Can you go back to the first one?
Sure. Oh wait, that's the next.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
I think Allison, did you say, was that, you said North Dakota? Oh, okay, yeah,
There's
sorry.
like that one way.
Is it?
North Dakota.
Yeah, right there. Does anyone know what that is? Yeah. Oil. Yeah. Well, and we have a lot in Oklahoma too. So, yeah. So it's easier to tell in your home state where the places are. So it's like we've got that. So what do you think that could be? Yeah. And then whenever you see it kind of going in lines, yep, we've got highways. So no one's really living there, but people are occupying that space, and you can really see it along the interstate.
So how would you light the interstate
in an environmentally friendly way? Would it be shielded just lower?
Yeah. Yep. It's tough though. Yeah, you would have to do shielded lights, and then there are also ways where you can do timers and dimmers as well. So that's something to look at. You can have it dimmed after a certain hour or turned off after a certain hour. There are options like that available, but that would certainly cut down on some of the carbon footprint associated with the lighting. But yeah, I think just following the best practice of using only what you need and having it point down rather than up and out to propagate through the atmosphere. All right. Oh, yeah.
I had a thought. I saw one time where I can't remember, it was like a Western European country, like Netherlands, Sweden, somewhere, that they were looking at glowing like on the actual road,
Mm-hmm.
so from solar energy. But I wonder if that would actually like lower the amount, because you could see the road better. You have to light up everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a solar paint type of thing, but it would help you see
That's
the road.
cool.
You have to
Yeah.
light up everything just to be able to see the road.
Yeah.
Like, you still have to have light for down the road looking at
Yeah.
distance, but I wonder if something like that would be.
Yeah. I've thought about that too. Like, I'm like, I wonder if that would work.
Or these self-driving cars, you can have the lights turn on like a mile before the car gets there.
Yeah,
Turn off.
that's true. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with that I haven't even thought about yet. But yeah, that's true. All right. So I think we're ready to get on the giant map. So we're all going to go out and work on the map. Start putting them on the map.
Where we see light at?
Yeah. And for the areas that are, I'll just give you a few. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The areas with like the warm colors, so the red, orange, and yellows, those are more intense light pollution, and the greens and blues are less intense light pollution.
Do you think everybody could stand at some point where they're from?
Maybe.
Yeah. At some point.
Maybe.
Because we neglected to
You're
do
the one.
that
Okay.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Was that whole stack mine? I just passed them
Oh,
out.
no. Like, yeah, you can take more. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody.
Everyone gets.
Okay.
You didn't get the handout.
Oh.
So we're doing the marker.
Are there any more the papers?
Yes.
That's when we need to go to the Okie Tech Star Party out at Black Mesa.
You know who the one single only Oklahoma delegate for the Garden Association?
So you just like do it according to where the light pollution is. So like they go more like in the red and orange and yellow areas, and then you put them out. So like you just like put a cone like where the colors are, basically is like where the cones go. Yeah.
We put a lot of them here. Now, normally this would be on a slide because you have the same room with the map on the.
Right. Yeah. All right.
So we're only handing these out. And we get a few people. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Can somebody, Savannah, go grab
Does anyone want to help me?
One big chain.
Yeah, it's just like one chain. Yes. So let me get you the other handout. So y'all are getting another handout with 3 red lines. And what we're going to do is like place the chains on the map where those lines go. So, but there's a catch. You cannot move the cones, and you have to try not to touch the cones with the chains.
would help me with the chase.
Yeah.
Okay. She said, "Well, I can't move the
Oh.
chase."
Move the cones.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Now what shall I do with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So try it. Yeah.
They need more. I mean, that's things.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
it's no different.
You have to do it like as close as you can to those red lines without moving or touching the cones.
Or what's this one? What are they doing?
They're putting chains according to red lines in Oklahoma. Then I tell them what it is after.
I mean, is that close?
Yep.
Oh.
It follows talking about like fourth floor as well.
All right. Here we go.
So what are
Take this
the red lines?
Here we go.
On the handout? Of what are they, Becca?
These are the migration paths of the monarch butterfly. Yes. And actually, at the end of this lesson, we are going to do a quick butterfly garden tour in Sarkeys. We have Von Seal Harmon with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation with us. And she's also with Okies for Monarchs. And she's going to talk about pollinator gardens and pollinator habitat at the very end of the session. But so what did y'all notice about having to put the chains and like not being able to touch the cones?
They have to change their pattern.
Right. So monarchs are the only butterfly known to do a two-way migration like birds. And they use a sophisticated navigation system, and artificial light disrupts that navigation system, which disorients them from their typical migration routes. A lot of them just get fatigued. A lot of them don't have enough pollinator habitat to sustain them for their journey. So it's overall just a real bad deal. But we can solve it. We have a quick activity that we're going to walk through with y'all.
And so what we've done is, and again, all this is online, all this is on the materials that we'll get for the workshop, and then it's all on the OKAGE website. So what we do is we divide everybody up into 4 groups, and we have questions about how do you as policymakers, or how do you as teachers, or how do you as students address these issues about light pollution. So what we're going to do is we're just going to divide everybody up. So we'll say,
Why don't y'all be the city managers?
the general public.
See. Yeah, can you be the city managers?
But we don't have enough. We may have this. So let's just make all 5 of them. And so you look like since your husband's an astronomer, you're the astronomer. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have the wildlife conservationists. We'll make you 2. Okay. Conservation.
I don't think we should go through the whole thing.
Why don't you just explain it?
Yeah, I'll just explain it.
So what we're going to do, normally what we would do is we would work through this entire exercise, and then that would be the remaining 15 minutes or so.
Right.
But we're just going to let you look at it for a couple minutes, Becca, make some comments, because we do want to get you up to the pollinator garden. So we're not going to go through this activity. Just look over it for a minute or so, and then Becca will kind of explain how it works.
Yeah.
And then we'll go upstairs.
Yep. So yeah, if you were doing this with your class, you would have your students select the top 3 choices. And if they do not agree on their top 3, then they will not get a say as to whether light pollution increases or decreases.
All right, so again, in the interest of time, let's just look at one example. So who are the policymakers?
The city managers are over.
We'll take the city managers. So for the city managers, can you give us, just as a quick example, can you give us your first choice? Have you gotten that far yet?
I would say probably B, applying for funding to implement a citywide energy efficiency project as a long-term cost-saving strategy for the city.
Okay, so what I have is an answer sheet that has an expected value associated with each response. So what you would do is, like, as a teacher, you would have your students roll the dice, And then if it is odd, so it's 3, so we are going to actually add a cone. Oh, well, we don't have any more cones, but pretend, yeah.
So the idea is that the adding and the subtracting cones, it's an equivalent of your decisions having a real world benefit because there's less bites.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the exercise, again, this would be 15, 20 minutes. At the end of the exercise, you can see which group has removed the most cones. And some of them are adding cones.
Right.
Because you're not really contributing to reducing life,
right.
you're contributing maybe to economic development.
Right, because like this one is mixed because like energy efficiency is not necessarily decreasing light pollution. It could be, but it's just not necessarily doing that. So that's why you roll the dice and then you see like maybe it will, maybe it won't. So yeah, that's how the whole exercise works. And then you go through and you add up the total change in cones, and then you see like who had the biggest impact on reducing light pollution in the state. And when we did this at the Get Fit conference, it was the general public that had the biggest impact. So I'll leave you with that so you can.
One of the things that we're going to do now, so that's basically the lesson.
Yes.
Again, you've got handouts of the lesson. You'll get it when you get the materials for the workshop. One of the things that we're doing for the Geo Inquiry projects are combining the giant lesson plan relating to monarch flight paths and light pollution and awareness of that with actually working with schools to look at pollinator gardens so you can improve pollinator habitat and reduce light pollution both at the same time. Now, we have actually put in a pollinator garden 1 floor above us, which is where we're going now.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody get their shoes back on. We'll go up the walkway here to the left, down over to the end. This is the Energy Center native pollinator habitat. The biological survey worked with putting in all native species into this area, and then I'll turn it over to the expert because beyond that, other than
I'm not sure I'm an expert, but
Bruce said, don't let him try the. What was the name of it? Bitterweed.
Oh, bitterweed.
Don't trick people into bitterweed.
No, not unless you're a bee or a butterfly or a bird. Not bitterweed. I'm Fonsil Harmon. I'm a ODOT Natural Resources Program biologist, and basically, what my job is we look at our highways. We look at threatened and endangered species issues or species impacts that may be impacted by roadway construction. So one of the species that I work with right now is the monarch butterfly because it is a candidate species, and we're expecting an endangered species listing decision next year. So we look at roadways for habitat, for what you guys just did was looking at the migration pattern. And so habitat, besides light pollution, loss of habitat and lack of habitat is the other threat to all of our pollinators, not just our migrating pollinators, but also our other pollinators. And so what the Biological Survey and Dr. Bruce Hoagland, who's with the Department of Geography, they created this garden. And so I want to show you briefly, because I know it's hot, and I will tell you right now, I'm a total geek, and I will talk to you about plants until you fall over dead. So I'm going to try not to do that. The flower, actually, it was used by native tribes as an emetic. It was also used as a cold tea that would help to promote vomiting. It can be used as a dye. And also our native bees, especially our bumblebees, because of the flower, it's big enough that they can fly into it and they can bumblebees, they pollinate by vibrating. So a bumblebee will stand its foot and then it'll vibrate and you'll get that pollen loose. And so bombuses they're like they're bumble, you see them flying through the air, they're doing this. So this is a plant that they can land on and that they can actually use the flower and pollinate. They can do their little stamp out routine. So this is another great plant, and actually it's one you use in the background and it is stunning. But it's also a really interesting leaf structure. So it's one that you guys can use too. I was trying to think what else.
Yeah, but Bruce had mentioned that there were some culturally important Native American plants that he had gotten from the Choctaw. I don't know if you remember where those were.
No.
one of the things that I would like to add, and we can maybe walk around a little bit over there, is it's not just monarchs which have dropped, was it 90%? They've 90% of the population. So it's a way to, encourage them. But also bees, bee behavior is incredibly understudied. So we had a discussion with a teacher that actually over the long term, you could actually count the number of bees and monarchs over time as you reduce the light pollution and you increase the butterfly garden maybe in the school area. And then if you walk around a little bit in the gravel over there, there are some plants that the Choctaw Nation had given us because they were culturally meaningful, but frankly, I don't remember what those were.
Yeah,
So.
I did, Bruce and I talked about that. This is another one of our milkweed species. I know a lot of people are used to seeing, tuberose with bright orange flowers, or they see the tropical one. This is swamp milkweed, and so that's another one that is milkweed. The milkweeds kind of, they bloom at different times because they're not only for, everybody thinks of milkweed and monarchs. Milkweed is also for bees, and a lot of bees. So a lot of these milkweeds bloom at a different time. And so swamp milkweed is getting ready to bloom right now. And this is also the time that we're starting to see more of our bees. We're seeing more of our native bees. We're also seeing more honeybees. The guys who do honeybees are starting to let them forage across the landscape. So swamp milkweed is like ready to feed. It's like, I'm gonna do my pink flowers and all you bees can like start coming to visit me along with the monarchs. Oklahoma has two seasons for monarchs. So pretty much by the end of June, 4th of July, most monarchs are off the landscape in Oklahoma and they've gone on up to breed in the upper Midwest. But we still do have a few stragglers. And so this milkweed will provide for the caterpillars that go in chrysalis and that fledge very late in, and they still have nectar resources from the swamp milkweed and some of the other milkweeds. Culture also will stay, they'll stay almost all through winter, so they'll provide some seed heads for ground birds and overwintering birds too. So it's a really good one. And Yarrow, of course, as we see, we do have a little bee. Where did he go?
What?
Because he didn't look like a honeybee. We're just now, I have to say, Oklahoma, you guys as educators, Oklahoma, you can look at a map of native bee distribution throughout the United States. And in the middle of the United States, the information on bees, Oklahoma is the big donut hole. There is not a lot of information about native bees in Oklahoma. Biosurvey, we just hired a pollinator biologist, a gentleman by the name of Dr. James Hung. He's just starting his lab up and he's getting students right now. But we're hoping through citizen science projects and other projects that we work on, geography, that we can start getting a better picture of how bees are using the landscape in Oklahoma, because it really is it's a vital, it's vital information that we just don't have to have. So it is giant coneflower, and I just like saying maxima, but this plant is like, this is a party for pollinators. You can look at this cone. You're going to get, all of our native bees are going to be coming to this plant. Our butterflies are going to be coming to this plant. Most particular, a lot of the skippers use this plant. But birds, when this cone falls, then it's seed for birds. So, and this plant does great. You look at it and you go, oh my gosh, this is, I must have dry and I must have well drained. Actually, this plant likes to have a little bit of wet feet. So if you have a wet area that gets a lot of sun, this is a good one to have. Compare it with some giant blue stem. Pair them together. Bitterweed. This is bitterweed right here. The one that, please do not eat this. Please do not eat this plant. But again, that's one that kind of is a party for pollinators. A lot of little bees use it. skippers. You see a lot of checker spots on this. And then right behind it, which is almost done, which is the coreopsis. So the plains coreopsis and the prairie coreopsis are like the backbone of all of your pollinator seed mixes. That also is one of the plants that, prairie chickens, everybody's got lots of prairie chickens, I hope.